You are listening to Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, episode 67, Just Say Yes or Roll. Today we talk about the power of saying yes to your players. We discuss how a dive into a different game system brought us about this change in Jared's GM style. We also discuss how to use the system of saying yes to improve your game experience at the table. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me in person, he won't always ask you to check your skill anymore. Jared.
Yeah, anymore.
Anymore.
It's a new development. So for our listeners, this is actually gonna take a little different tune or tone to our usual podcast. Usually we talk about toolboxes and stuff like that. This one I'm actually gonna ask Aaron a lot of questions. So to give you some background, I'm preparing to try a new system. It's called Blades in the Dark. We're going to give it a new a shot sometime soon. I'm still kind of developing the story, and we're right in the middle of our detective series. So, but, we're hoping to do a one night sometime soon. So in preparation for that game, I'm reading the book and learning the systems. And one of the big parts of the system is say yes. So this system essentially postulates, doesn't postulate, it's written in the rules, that unless something is a risky situation where failure could bring on consequences, okay, just say yes. If a character can do something, say yes. If your character, for example, has 5 levels in, I don't know, Jedi mind trickery, and they're doing it on a stormtrooper, just say yes. The stormtrooper has no defense. Just these are not the droids you're looking for. Period. Done. So it's interesting because Aaron and I come from a very roll heavy system. White Wolf is extremely roll heavy. You can roll for driving.
Yes, I mean, I guess technically it is roll heavy. I mean, we came from a bunch of roll heavy systems. I mean, you started in Palladium, so I mean, I don't think we've ever been
that had a school for cooking or skill for cooking.
Yes, I don't think we've ever been a non-roll heavy kind of group. I think that more recently, if you role played well, and I think more recently, when I'm saying like the last 5-10 years, if you role played well, you wouldn't necessarily make someone write or try to do a skill check.
Right.
So I mean that's more of where
role playing is going.
That is the essence of it. It's to kind of get away from the dice. But I mean, when you get into combats and stuff,
yeah,
this is not super applicable here because sure you can fire the gun, but that doesn't mean that it's not a risky situation, which is what Jared's saying here. What he's saying is more about in lines with if you're doing your normal thing in a normal situation, like if I'm going to try and if I've got a skill in reading and I'm going to try to proofread something, Jared's not going to make me roll to see how well I proofread it.
Precisely. For especially applicable to what I experimented last week. So last week, during our game, I experimented with it. So I just kind of popped off the rolls a little bit. I just let off the throttle. So anytime that the characters were investigating a crime scene, each one of them do have levels in investigation. I just told them what they found and what they were, they told me where they were looking. I told them what they found. Unless, so essentially what is a part of that is they look at rolling as an inhibitor of story. For example, I want my players to find the dark circle of magic underneath the bed because I want them to get further in the story. I don't want them, because once they go to a crime scene, they're probably not coming back. I'm just telling you. That's my team. They're one and done. Goodbye. They have very seldom gone back to visit crime scenes a second time, just to look over them again. Did we miss anything? Let's hit it again. So really,
Again, this isn't the real world, Jared. Okay, we're like, nothing's here.
Nothing's here. All right, goodbye. With the say yes sort of system, when they are like, we're looking for anything strange, supernatural, as you peer under the bed, you notice the dark circle of magic that has been placed there to target the ghostly spirit onto the inhabitants. So where we're going to take it, now that you've got the backstory, where we're going to take a turn is I'm going to talk to Aaron, the player, and ask him how he felt about it.
It was interesting. I didn't know you were doing it until we took that break.
Yes. That was the plan.
So it was actually very interesting, which is like, usually we have a role associated with this. I thought you were doing it more in like rooms. So again, we were just investigating places where some murders had happened. I thought you were doing it more in rooms that were mundane. Okay, at first. And then I think somewhere along the line, Brian realized what you were doing when we took a break, and that's when the conversation happened. I was like, that's interesting. And I liked it, but at the same time, there are some things I didn't like about it. So there's the thing I liked about it was that it was like, okay, we're getting a picture and an image of the information that we're supposed to get, which was great because I felt like it was complete. Okay. The thing I didn't like about it is there was one role that you did make me make. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with a system like this, you want to intermingle those roles in different places. Whether or not they succeed or fail is sort of irrelevant here, but you don't want to tip your hand into saying this thing that I've made you roll for is important and could, had you succeeded in the role, it would have it would have been changing. Because you gave me the role the one time, and I try, in my younger days, I would have just been like, I take another turn to look at it, because I know it's important. Okay, I know that you have something behind the role.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from looking for more of the evidence that I was supposedly rolling on, I looked at it at different crime scenes. One of the things that I think could have been nice or would have been worked well is that if it was something, I just feel like every time I would have looked at it, I should have basically been given the role again, because it felt like it was more of like an insight type of role about a piece of information there. And so it's like, hey, do I only get that role once and then I never get to have the insight moment again, or do I, or if I continue to look, will I have an opportunity at the insight one more time? So it feels like I missed a piece of information with that, because it was the only thing I had to roll on.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I'll trust that you're going to give me the information later on. But it's also nice to sort of know when I don't know what's important and what's not important with the role. It's part of the problem with the system of the say yes or roll there is that you sort of need to have some red herrings out there.
Interesting.
To make it so your players don't hone in on the things. It's just exactly what we said when we did you're making the maps and stuff. When in Roll20, Jared was obsessed with putting characters with pictures and faces on everything. The first couple of games everybody did this. Okay, we would go spend hours looking for hours looking for pictures of people. And if you found someone that didn't have a picture, you went, they're not important. They don't
Clearly not important.
Clearly not important. And it was just like the system, we've evolved the system better to hide what's not important versus what is important, which is like, I now have things where like I have banks of names, okay, like generated already. And I'll just give you the person and I'll say, here's the person that you run into. And I've got descriptions to fit these people as well. So it's just like you don't know.
I've even gone one step further where I don't even give you the description. You asterisk names and blank characters. So it's just
which is even better.
And if you're like, I'd like a fully fleshed out description of that person, no problem. I will hand that to you next week. It will be, because we do have like there's a record in Roll20 an archive that they can go to and they can look at. And now they don't know when I'm just blowing smoke or if they really have a description.
But the idea is that you're trying to hide tipping your hand.
Yep.
And I feel like the system, in some cases, especially in a mental social situation, does tip your hand as to what's really important versus what's not. So that's the one critique I have of the system so far.
Okay. That's a good critique, adding in the red herrings. I have to admit it, as a storyteller, I'm still a little hesitant on it because it's like saying yes to almost everything. What's the purpose of the dots? What's,
Well, so that'd be my other piece to it. There is the say yes part of it is in D&D they have passive perception, passive investigation, I think, some passive stats.
Right.
Okay, they are just a generic, I'm just going to take my passive, it means that I rolled this, okay, as my roll. And then you can determine what I know from that roll.
Taking a 10?
Sort of like taking a 10, but it's like an already predetermined roll. It's based off of a 10, and then it uses the modifier I have in whatever the applicable stat is. The thing that you can do here is that the dots are important, but you need, in White Wolf, you have to be careful with this because you have to know, you might ask me, how many dots do you have there?
Yeah.
Okay. Or what's your dice pool of intelligence plus X? Are you proficient in the skill? Because if you are proficient in the skill, guess what? You got to roll. Okay. Like, I've always sort of tried to work with that. I always thought about how do you make that work, because in the White Wolf system, I've played in some of my other games where if you don't have the skill, you just have the intelligence, you're just trying to insight your way through it, I make you roll a difficulty 8. I've done that before.
I like that. Okay. I did like that.
But I think if you go with the say yes system, you can determine, okay, yes, you have knowledge of investigation, but you are not proficient enough to just get the information here. So guess what? You got to roll. Okay?
I like that.
Or you have no dots in this. Guess what? You got to roll because you don't know what you're doing. You have no knowledge of it. It doesn't mean that you can't gather information because you might see things, but to your untrained eye, you don't know.
Right. And you might have that miraculous roll. And so to counter, the one thing I like about the say yes, let's say that you have a character with 4 dots, they're a professional shooter. They hit targets. Right? 4 dots, you're just minus an Olympian or a trained sniper. Or, someone who's highly trained in CQB, for the people who aren't like long guns but have 5 dots. Delta Force and stuff like that. People with a lot of trigger time. And you know what? It's funny because Ken would commonly bring this up as a complaint in role-playing. That he's got 5 dots in something. But he botched. He hated botching. He hated botching.
Again, we will have an episode on failures and critical failures, stuff like that.
I mean, he'd get upset. Like, upset. So, one of the things, and there was a point to him. There was a point. There was a standing. If I am trying to hit a target at 10 feet, and I've got 5 or 4 levels. I'm a Delta Force operator. I'm playing one. Right? I'm going to hit that fucking target. I'm probably going to hit aces.
And there's no stress involved in it?
At 10 feet?
Again, well, I'm asking about stress being...
You're asking if the character... No, let's say it's a range. Quiet range, normal freaking day. Not too much humidity, not too much heat, because those are both factors in shooting long distances. For those of you who don't know, at 10 feet, it really actually doesn't freaking matter.
Again, the only reason why I'm asking that question is because, 10 feet, again, the target is not far away at all. I've gone and shot pistols at 10 feet. If you can't hit 10 out of 10, you're probably doing something wrong.
You are clearly doing something wrong.
It actually should give you a little bit of comfort that if somebody ever drew a gun on you and you just ran around in zigzags, you actually probably would be pretty safe.
Honestly, it's hilarious because, most people think that shooting a moving target is actually easy. It's actually
extremely hard.
Extremely hard. You got to lead your target. And if they're zigzagging is an actual defense against getting shot at. I mean, like,
you can't keep your sights lined, so you think you're shooting this way, you're shooting 10 feet off the mark. I mean,
you're not leading your target properly. It suddenly changed the other freaking direction. I mean, zigzag is just don't run in a straight line while being shot at. I mean, then you're just silhouetting yourself.
Zigzag and make distance.
Yeah,
you're zigzagging.
As much distance.
The further away you get, the harder it is. But anyways, we digress.
We digress. So, in this situation with Say Yes, I'd be like, you're a freaking Delta Force operator, and you want to impress another NPC with your shooting skills by hitting 4 aces at 10 feet? Done. You've got the range time. You know what I mean? But
that makes sense. There's no... Again, that actually fits with the system there, which is that you are doing it with no serious consequence.
No serious consequence, no stressors. I might say you miss. To add a little stress to it. She laughs as you miss. I don't know. I'd probably not because that's a little jerkish. But
I mean, do now maybe you're doing the same thing, but you've got $100 riding on it. Okay, now roll. There's a consequence. You might lose. Now granted, for the people who are proponents of Say Yes, they'd be like, no, he's still got 4 levels versus a person who has 2 levels. The person with 4 levels is clearly going to outmaster the shooting of a person with 2 levels. Now, the thing is, though, there is stress, but a Delta Force operator, his hands is not going to shake when he's hitting with $100 on the line because he's used to his life being on the line. A person with 2 dots is not used to their life being, well, they might, but you know what I mean? It's a great conversation. And it's kind of funny because Blades in the Dark is based on, like, gaming should be a conversation between friends. And it really has generated a conversation that made us all the way to a podcast. I've been doing a lot of reading of different systems lately. So, like, just to see what other people are doing and coming up with. And I've seen this change. I've quite literally seen this change of reducing the amount of rolls that are required in a game. But when I look at D&D, which is a very complex, highly, developed system. It's been developing since like the 1970s. You're in their 5th iteration of it.
And I mean, like, they've fucked up along the way. Wasn't there, like, one that just everyone hated?
Supposedly, I never played the other... I haven't played anything but 5th edition, really. But I know that 3rd and 4th edition were just not received well.
So, and they've taken that information back and they made 5th edition. So, when you look at this new wave of rolling... The question that I'm postulated against is, when do I make a character roll, when do I don't? And especially with keeping suspense. That is the one thing that the Say Yes system makes me almost, and I'm asking you, Aaron. Let's say, for example, you're running from a hellhound. Okay? You're running. You get in the door, and I narrate to you, right? I'm going to narrate to you right now. You get to the door of your cabin, quickly turning around and closing it. But the hellhound puts an arm through it and is scratching and tearing and biting and clawing and growling. You can see its blood red eye right through the crack of the door as you keep slamming it and slamming and finally you get it closed. Is that as suspenseful as me to say, roll for your run? Roll to see if you can close that door quickly enough. Doesn't it lose suspense?
I actually don't think so.
Really?
Yes, because...
I'm shocked.
Well, I'm not, because I know the narration behind the success in the rolls does increase the suspense. Look at you guys running from the bears.
Right. That was the rolls added to the success. I was stressed as fuck.
I made you roll every step of the way. I even made Brian roll to put the keys in the damn ignition.
Yes, and it increased. And when he dropped them, I mean, it was a stressful moment. Had you not made us roll, we would have lost that suspense.
I mean, I
You could have said the bears easily outrun you and maul you.
Oh yes, I could have taken you down.
If you think you can outrun a bear, you're wrong.
Are you faster than a bear?
There's the old joke. I don't have to be faster than a bear. I just got to be faster than you.
But that scene doesn't work if you don't have the dice. Now, again, if you're following the actual Blades in the Dark rules there, the Blades in the Dark rules say that there's consequence. So all those rolls were necessary because you were running from the danger. And had you failed the rolls, danger could have caught you. It did a couple of times.
It really did a couple of times. But you're right. Blades in the Dark would push you towards a consequence.
Now, the difference in that would be, again, a better example would be somebody steals a woman's purse in a major city, okay?
Right.
And your character witnesses it. Character goes and starts to chase him down. There's a question of whether or not you want to let narrative take over for a story purpose, or do you want to have a tense chase?
Now, if your character is the Flash, I would say narrative. If your character's not the Flash,
if your character's an Olympic runner, done.
I actually knew a cop who was actually he ran like marathons and like did sprints and like everything like that. Ironically, he was kicked off the force for theft a couple years later after I ended my internship. But he was so fast, he used to run in front of suspects when they ran from him. I mean, granted, this is the safe city of Whedon, so they could do shit like that. But because it's a freaking kid,
But I mean, if you look at the Just Say Yes system there, again, it's a question also with the fleeing. Is it for your story?
Ooh, this brings me to a great point. Is it for your story? And also, when you just say yes, are you narrating the player's actions too much? That is going to be a trick with the Just Say Yes. Don't narrate your player's actions. That was a trick that I pulled with you guys last week. I didn't tell you where you searched.
Again, that's good. It kind of gives you that feeling of agency in this sense that, again, it gives you consequence. Where if I missed a room, maybe I missed something important.
Exactly. You chose not to investigate the bathroom. The
other thing that it did do is it let me role play into the moment more, which was you gave me a lot of information, and then I started asking more questions about specific pieces of information. You led me deeper into the investigation and role playing out the investigation more so than you having me roll dice to figure out what's in the room. Okay, so like I had some information in my mind that I'm like, I'm going to look for this. Right. And you gave me specific documents. Said, oh, well, there is a case on his desk here, and so I'm like, oh, he is looking into this. So you gave me some new documents to look at. So I look at it. I'm like, okay, well, is there more around this case? Does he have any notes? Does he jot down some personal information there? Like, it gives you the opportunity to add narrative and expose more information by saying, you are trained. Here is what you have found. You find a candelabra, you find a notebook, and you find a drawer that's half empty with clothes. Okay? What does that mean to me? Okay, well, I look deeper at the candelabra.
Well, the candelabra says that he's getting it on.
Well, that's very interesting. The candelabra has candles that are burned down halfway, but they're varying lengths in the candelabra. It almost looks as though somebody blew one out. Like, you could kind of have me look in.
Why would you only blow out one candle?
Jared, again, this is the idea of narrating to give me more information. So now I'm deeper invested looking at the candelabra. I've chosen. You've given me set objects like there's a desk, there's a drawer, there's a this and this, and I get to now go looking through it and seeing, is there something else to it? Okay, well, you gave me these documents that have some notes on it, but is there another notepad or to these case files that say, hey, I'm taking personal notes about the case files? You might not have given those to me immediately until I dive deeper into the evidence that you've already.
So what you're suggesting is almost levels of success within the say yes. I'm going to tell you that, on the front of the desk.
I give you the surface, and you can now, I'm kind of leading you into the investigation.
Almost a Socratic method.
Yes, I'm letting you, I'm putting spotlights on objects in the room. Okay? And by doing that, when you say, I want to look at the desk, okay? The desk has drawers in it. You open them up. There's a lot of papers in there. Okay, well, were these written by him? Do they have his own personal notes? Oh, yeah, you find some of his own personal notes. Here they are. Then you present the evidence to the player. So the player has done work to get there, but they have not betrayed. You haven't just basically been like, there's a desk, and inside the desk there are notes, and you find the notes, and they've got all this information on them. Like, you're trying to...
You have to pace it.
That you got to pace it, and you got to narrate it to the player that hey, you're slowly kind of finding things. See if the players can kind of click into it, okay? Because that's where the danger comes in. Because if the players can't piece 1 and 2 together, that's where the dice save you.
Right.
Roll the dice.
And that's one thing about the Say Yes system that I definitely would look at it and be like, if a player calls for a roll, give them the roll. Like, if your player, because especially when you look at this in a social situation, so we've looked at mental, we've looked at physical. Physical is almost always going to be a roll. A physical challenge.
It depends on the physical thing you're doing. If your player says, I want to run a sub 5 mile, and they've got, great athleticism and dexterity, boom, done.
Can you tell Aaron runs it?
I do not run a sub 5 mile. Okay, I could not, in my wildest dreams, even begin thinking about running a sub 5 mile. I would be so out of breath at the quarter mile and dying that I would not be able to finish that. I would be limping in at 8. Okay,
limping in at 8. That's better than my fucking mile. So, my fat ass. But, you're right. They're physical, they're mental, social. I love my players to death. One of our guys, Nick, had the gift of fucking gab. And he's a salesman for a living. I mean, he does sell ice to Eskimos.
But if you're talking about Nick here, but we've talked about this before. This is the idea of, if you are good at talking to your GM and your players socially make a point to you, is you're playing the character they're talking to, okay? Right. As the GM, I am the count, okay, that you're speaking to, or I am the merchant that you're speaking to, and the players, they're like, they're holding the horn of the behemoth that the guys slew, and they need to get it as a magical ingredient, and they're talking to the guy. Your player's like, listen, I've got this gem here, all right, and it's got a trap banshee inside. Okay, I'll trade you. Okay, think about that. Okay, most GMs would say, okay, roll me a persuasion check right now. No, go.
You'd be stupid not to take the trap banshee.
It's a trap banshee in that gem, okay? Maybe that's really valuable to the guy there, okay? If you think
a trap banshee is valuable to everyone. Hello.
Just think about would that guy take it? Yes. Okay? Just say yes there.
Say yes.
That's done. Spit on the hands, shake hands, boom. You have the horn of the behemoth. I got the trap banshee. Okay?
The horn of behemoth is so a forgery. I just swindled you. Swindled you so hard.
But the players don't know that. That could make it an even better story.
That is an even better story. Behemoth?
Son of a bitch took my banshee.
Son of a bitch took my fucking banshee.
Okay.
Oh my god, I would be so mad. I would go back there and beat his ass.
And then he's got a traveling caravan. Now there's a whole like you're chasing down the man who took your banshee. But what I'm saying is that's actually like how we've talked about that in social. In social, think about what your players are asking you and what your players are telling you. Because your players may ask you a question and you go like, oh, that's a really good question that they just asked. And the guy knows the answer to it, and we're friendly and we're amenable right now, so why wouldn't he just divulge the information?
Right.
Why would you need to make a persuasion check? Okay? Like, my character in D&D is a bard, okay? I've got a plus 10 on my persuasion. Most things I do, persuasion-wise, should just work, okay? If I want to go ask someone, we actually just had this in our last game. It was more of kind of a I forgot, like an accounting type game. We were going to host like a banquet for someone. So I went to my guild, okay, which I'm a part of. Okay? And I asked,
Are you registered with your local guild?
I am.
Are you a card carrying
the guild of merchants and townskeepers and innkeepers, and I asked them,
Are you seriously part of the guild of merchants and townskeepers and hotel keepers?
Yes.
Hot damn, he did go to quite the level with the guilds.
Yeah, but so I am part of that guild, and I'm like, huh? Well, we have this elvish royalty. Like, we don't know the name of them. We want to impress. So I'm like, well, I'll go to the highfalutin places, and I'll ask them, do you know this elvish family and this royalty family? Okay, he did make me roll for it, but in the just say yes situation, there, like, hell yeah, you're part of the guild. You've got standing with them. You have +10 on your skill there. You're damn right they're going to tell you exactly what you need to do.
They're going to be like, listen, elves are burned by gold. No gold.
Don't do gold. Moon silver only.
Moon silver only on those. Make sure the silver is polished. They have a big thing about silver polish.
And this is their dietary restrictions and their needs. And I do know the family. And oh, by the way, or if I don't know the family, oh, Jim down the street, he knows them. Let me refer you to him and send you over it that way.
I love how you made like a text motion with that when
I was writing down on a piece of paper.
Oh, I thought that was a text motion right there. Like, your D&D has iPhone 12s? Wouldn't that just make life easy in D&D?
But let me refer you. So that's a better story. Is like, if I don't want you just to figure it out right there. Okay, hey, listen, I know a couple other merchants who've got some knowledge on this. Send your player out to go do a little socialing, a little carousing. Let them ask some questions. What do they like? Or I know a caterer, and I know this guy, and I know this guy.
And one of them might be lying.
Yes, and let them do that, and let your players try to suss out the lies. This is the social side of things. We've talked about this before, but it makes for so much more fun if you're just like, if your players don't roll any dice while you're talking to somebody, and you're just talking to them. You're like, yep, yeah, no, oh, well, you can do that, you can do this. At some point in time, your players are going to click and go like, wait a minute, has he just been bullshitting me this whole time? Is he lying? Is he?
Oh God, when you guys had that moment, whichever game it was, like you guys had like this long fucking conversation. You walked out of there, and I think it was the end of the night. You were like, we didn't check him for a single freaking lie, and I'm like,
for a single
nope.
lie. We didn't check to see if any of the information checks out. Do I have good insight on this? Does this make sense to me? Like, the guy could be like, all right. Well, okay, I'm the esteemed wizard. I know how to call the behemoth. So you need a behemoth horn, and then you need some pixie dust. Okay, so you have to trap the behemoth in a circle of pixie dust. But to get the behemoth into the circle of pixie dust, you have to blow a behemoth horn. Okay, they use that to make mating calls and whatnot. And you're like, oh, this totally checks out. Like, this totally checks out. You're like, this has to be right. And then you go do it. You go spend all this gold and stuff to go do it, and nothing happens. And oh, by the way, you had to pay 150 gold to the wizard just to get this information. You're like, God, he's a grifter. He's a grifter.
And that's the thing. You have to, whenever an NPC lies to a player, there has to be a reason. Because most people typically, like, and it could be a wild reason. They are a habitual liar. Like, bards tend to blow things out of fucking proportions. Yeah, you can never get a straight answer out of an Imperial officer. You know, like, it's just their way.
Or you're talking to like a spy, like we did the game in Burgon with all the spies and everybody was a politician. And it was like pulling teeth to try to get information. But that was a good one for Just Say Yes, because it was tough to talk to everybody in that situation.
Yeah, but that game was a flop.
I understand there were other problems there, but that's a good example of like trying to tactfully work around questions. And then again, like, if your player calls for a dice roll, have the dice roll. Or if your player asks for really sensitive information, like, tell me your deepest, darkest secrets. Okay, roll me a persuasion check.
Yeah, because I'm not going to do that willingly.
Yeah, nobody would.
Now, I will tell you this. As a storyteller, when I was doing this, there was a panic red light going on in my brain the entire time. Aaron might not have seen the panicked look in my fucking eyes the entire time that I was doing this. It was going, The story's going too fast. The story's going too fast. The story's going too fast. Oh my God, I haven't made them roll for anything. If you are an experienced D&D, White Wolf storyteller, you have made people roll for innocuous shit. I have done it. I have made people roll for drives. Drives. Okay? The thing that we do every day and 99% of us don't get into car accidents. I mean, I've only been in one accident and had like, well, since I've started like crossing the country, I've had multiple speeding tickets now because, Ohio gives you a ticket for anything over 5 miles an hour on a highway. Who does that? But
the police on the Ohio Turnpike, apparently.
yeah, but thing is, it is a fantastic state. I do love Ohio. Like, I'm thinking of like, if you ever move out of this state, I'm going straight to Ohio. Fucking love it there. Yeah. Good friendly people in Ohio. Ohio, I'm looking to you to use one of these tools. Really, when it comes down to it, you're gonna get a blinking light. You're gonna feel that panic, and what you need to do is calm your shit down. Because I will tell you, as a storyteller, I was experiencing panic, going like, "Oh my God, I'm just like." There was a voice in the back of my head that was like, "You're giving them the whole storyline. What are you doing? Are you crazy? Make them roll. Make them roll."
But think about it like this. It's just like an investigation roll. Like I have this in my games all the time, where like you guys roll an investigation roll, and I give you all the pieces of information. And I'm like, I've got nothing else. Like I just gave them everything. Like they just did one good roll. I just gave them everything.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying with the say yes system, the first time that our listeners try it, trust me, you're gonna have this mind. If you're experienced as a storyteller, even anything above a year where you've been making them roll for, I don't know, setting up their tents. Like, think about it. Wilderness survival is a thing. Like, need you to roll, see if you got a good tent set up.
Forgot to put down the tarp. Now your tent's all wet.
Soaked right through. Now you're fucked up. And you're just switching to the say yes. Trust me, you're going to have this panic. I had it. I was nervous the whole freaking time because I'm like, I am just handing them my story. Oh my God, what am I doing?
You need to have more narrative to counteract it, though. That's the key. Is you need to be more willing to go into the narrative to counteract the say yes.
More narrative or more conversation with the player. I do like what you suggest with the spotlight moments and letting it be more Socratic, letting the player lead. I'm not going to hand you everything, and that's the kind of the say yes disclosure you got to make. I'm not going to hand you everything. When you guys say I look at the desk, I'm going to tell you what's on the surface. When you guys look deeper into this, Jared, I'm looking for this specific thing. Jared, I'm looking for this. Jared, I'm looking for any hidden compartments, right? If it furthers my story that they find the hidden compartment with his, cult sacrificial tools, because who doesn't have a hidden compartment with their cult sacrificial tools? If that is going to further your story, just say yes. You're going to find it. They said they're specifically looking for it. There are very few trap doors that are so hard to freaking find. All right? Trust me, if you've ever looked into, like, hidden gun compartments for your furniture,
you're going to find it probably.
Let's just say I might have looked into that furniture lately. I mean, who doesn't want a coffee table that has a 12 gauge under it? Just... And I actually have my wife on board. I'm like, we're going to ditch our coffee table right now. We're going to get this one with the hidden compartment. She's like, well, why do I need it? And I'm like, if someone kicks in the front door, you have a gun at hand. And she's like, tell me more. And I'm like, it comes in black.
Sold.
Sold. My wife loves black. Well,
yeah, I mean, I think we've said... I've said everything.
I've said everything I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I'm definitely encouraging storytellers to give it a try. Maybe put out the disclosure to your players before you do, so they kind of know what's going on and they kind of know the rule that you're going to give them the surface level stuff.
Particularly if you're going to go the Socratic method level of it, where like they're going to have to be a little bit more, deep dive a little deeper into what these things are.
But as a storyteller, I'm going to give this say yes thing, this trend, a thumbs up right now. I'm going to give it a thumbs up. It needs a little tuning.
We'll give you a review on it in a couple of weeks and let you know how it's going.
Yeah, because I think I'm going to do it tonight. I'm just going to say yes.
Perfect.
Say yes to that dress. Great show.
All right, well, that's going to start to wrap it up for us.
Aaron's like, and we're going to glaze over that.
That's going to start to wrap it up for us. I don't know if anybody has run Blades in the Dark, or if you have any thoughts about the idea of say yes, and maybe you do this already as a storyteller. Let us know. You can get to us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. You can also find us on YouTube. We have all of our videos up on YouTube, so you can comment there if you like the say yes idea. So, Jared?
Smash that like button. Smash it with a hammer. No, actually, don't do that.
Oh,
You'll
do not smash.
Computer.
Yeah, you're going to break your computer. But, go ahead and share the podcast with your friends. If you're in Ohio, you like the idea.
If you're in Ohio. Tell your state troopers to calm down.
Otherwise, also go ahead and review us on your on some podcast sites. Podchaser or Apple Podcast does help us get a little more searchable to all this stuff as well. But we do thank you for listening. And for this week, we're going to wrap it up. For Jared, I'm Aaron. Have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week, everyone.